Greetings, cozy knights. Lower your swords and rest by the fire. Tonight, we journey through the hidden secrets of Cyrodiil, the heart of the Empire where mysteries lurk in every shadow. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're listening from tonight, and what games you want me to cover next, and subscribe if this helps you sleep. Ulfhord Gabing's hidden identity. Deep within the unfriendly competition quest, you encounter a merchant named Thorinir who sources inventory from the mysterious Agamir. If you investigate Agamir's possessions, you discover a notebook containing an entry about someone named Ulfhord Gabings. The name is an anagram for Frodo Baggins from Lord of the Rings. According to the notes, this Ulfhord was murdered for his belongings, which included a travel cloak with silver and green leaf fastener, an enchanted short sword with inlaid writing, a leather-bound travel journal, and a gold ring with inscription marked as possibly cursed. Bethesda hid this reference in plain sight, paying homage to Tolkien's masterwork. The murdered traveler's possessions mirror the iconic items from Middle-earth, right down to the suspicious ring that could easily be the One Ring itself, making this one of Oblivion's most elaborate Easter eggs. The detail extends beyond simple name recognition. Each item description matches its Middle-earth counterpart precisely. The cloak's green leaf clasp mirrors the elven brooch. The short sword with writing recalls Sting. The journal represents the Red Book, and that cursed ring needs no explanation for anyone familiar with Tolkien's work. This layered reference shows Bethesda's deep appreciation for the fantasy genre's foundations, embedding literary history into their game world. The Pale Lady's Feeding Room. During the Thieves' Guild quest Lost Histories, you track a trail of blood through Skingrad Castle's wine cellar into a hidden passage. Following the path reveals a secret chamber where the Pale Lady maintains her feeding room. This vampire has been living beneath the castle, presumably for years, draining victims who disappear without investigation. The Count of Skingrad is himself a vampire, which raises the question of whether he knows about her presence and simply tolerates it, or whether she operates without his knowledge. The feeding room contains evidence of multiple victims, bloodstains and remains suggesting she's killed dozens. When you confront her, she attacks immediately, defending her sanctuary. The quest treats her death as necessary cleanup, but it raises questions. How many people has she killed? How long has she operated beneath the castle? The game never explains her origins or how she established this hidden lair, leaving her history as mysterious as the victims who vanished into her feeding room. The giant mudcrab secret. Near Greenmead Cave, if you explore the coastline carefully, you encounter a giant mudcrab significantly larger than normal specimens. This creature isn't part of any quest or natural spawn. It's a leftover from development testing, a creature Bethesda used to test combat mechanics and animations. They left it in the game as an Easter egg for observant players. The giant mud crab is surprisingly dangerous, hitting harder than most enemies you'd encounter in the area. In-universe, this unusual size remains unexplained. It's possible the creature was mutated by Daedric energy during the Oblivion Crisis, or perhaps it's the result of magical experimentation from a mage who lived in the nearby cave. The crab doesn't drop unusual loot or trigger any dialogue. It's simply there, a remnant of development that became part of Cyrodiil's strange ecology. Players who don't explore thoroughly will never encounter this bizarre creature. Finn Gleam's Drown Owner. Off the western coast near Anvil, divers can find the Finn Gleam helmet resting on a skeleton at the bottom of the bay. This enchanted glass helmet provides water breathing, night eye, and detect life effects, making it incredibly valuable early in the game. The mystery isn't the helmet itself, but the skeleton wearing it. If the helmet grants water breathing, how did its previous owner drown? Some theorize the enchantment failed at a critical moment. Others suggest murder, someone removing the helmet and holding the victim underwater until they drowned, then replacing it to hide evidence. The skeleton shows no signs of struggle, suggesting death came quickly or the victim was already unconscious. Perhaps the helmet was stolen from its original enchanter and the thief didn't realize it was cursed. The enchantment works perfectly for you, but something killed its previous owner despite the magical protection. Dive Rock's fatal climb. Near Aaron's camp, you find Dive Rock, a tall cliff with a dead body at its base. The corpse belongs to a failed climber who fell while attempting to reach the summit. Notes found on the body suggest fear of something at the top drove them to fall or jump. If you climb Dive Rock yourself, you discover nothing particularly dangerous waiting above, just a stunning view. Some players report hearing strange sounds or seeing shadows that vanish when approached. Others claim the wind patterns are unnatural, almost like something breathing. The climber's notes mention growing unease, a feeling of being watched. Whatever scared them enough to fall remains unclear. Perhaps they simply lost their grip. Perhaps fear of heights caused hallucinations. Or perhaps something invisible dwells at the summit. Something that only reveals itself to those who climb alone. The doomed Cheydinhal citizen. In Cheydinhal, if you listen to guard conversations, they occasionally mention citizens who disappeared without explanation. These aren't quest-related NPCs, but background characters who simply vanish from the city. Some players theorize this is connected to the Dark Brotherhood's presence in the nearby sanctuary. The guards seem unconcerned, treating disappearances as routine occurrences. This implies Cheydinhal has a much darker underside than appears during daylight. The Brotherhood may be conducting regular contracts in the city, eliminating targets while authorities look the other way. Alternatively, vampire activity could explain the vanishing residents. The guards' casual attitude suggests either corruption or resignation, accepting that some citizens will disappear. Nobody investigates. Nobody demands answers. The missing simply become forgotten, their fates sealed in Cheydinhal's shadows. Glarthur's justified paranoia. The quest Paranoia in Skingrad introduces Glarthur, a wood elf convinced he's being watched and conspired against. The quest treats him as delusional, but examining the evidence suggests he might be right. If you report his suspicions to the guards, they immediately know about him, suggesting surveillance. The citizens he suspects all exhibit suspicious behavior when observed. Some players discovered cut dialogue suggesting a real conspiracy existed in earlier development. Glarthur may have stumbled onto something genuine, but his unstable presentation made people dismiss his claims. Even after the quest concludes, unusual events continue in Skingrad. The castle has secrets, the Count is a vampire, and Glarthur's paranoia might have been the only appropriate response to living in a city with hidden darkness. His tragic fate proves that being right doesn't matter if nobody believes you. Rufio's unforgivable past. Your first Dark Brotherhood contract targets Rufio, an old man sleeping in the Inn of Ill Omen. Before killing him, you can ask about his past. He confesses to a violent act against a woman, simply stating she struggled. The implication is deeply disturbing. Rufio committed something horrific years ago and fled to this remote inn, hoping isolation would protect him from consequences. The Dark Brotherhood found him anyway. Whoever hired the contract wanted Rufio to know his death was coming, that old crimes eventually find justice. When you complete the contract, you're executing a murderer, but you're also becoming one yourself. The game doesn't clarify what Rufio did exactly, leaving players to imagine his crime. His tired acceptance of death suggests guilt has haunted him for decades. He doesn't beg or fight. He knows he deserves this. The Bloated Float's pirate hijacking. The Bloated Float is a ship converted into an inn at the Imperial City waterfront. If you rent a room and sleep there, you wake to a surprising event. Pirates have hijacked the ship. This triggers the An Unexpected Voyage quest, a homage to action movies like Under Siege. The quest is completely missable if you never sleep at this specific inn. The pirates have been planning this heist for weeks, and you stumbled into their operation by pure chance. The innkeeper is killed unless you save her, and the ship is overrun with brigands who thought they were stealing from a wealthy merchant. The quest plays with action movie tropes, letting you pretend to be the ship's cook in a direct Steven Seagal reference. This random encounter transforms what seemed like a simple inn into an action sequence, proving Cyrodiil holds adventure in unexpected places. Sheogorath's Blessing of Madness. The Shivering Isles expansion reveals Sheogorath as far more complex than his Oblivion mainland shrine suggests. The realm itself represents his fractured mind, split between mania and dementia. When you complete the expansion and become Sheogorath yourself, you're not replacing him, but fulfilling a cycle. Every hero who defeats Jiggalag becomes the new Sheogorath, cursed to eventually transform back into the Daedric Prince of Order. This means the cheerful mad god you met at the beginning is a previous hero who succeeded in the same quest years or centuries ago. They forgot their original identity completely, consumed by the role. When you sit on the throne, you accept the same fate. Your memories will fade. Your personality will fragment. You'll become the mad god, hosting future heroes in an endless cycle, unable to remember being mortal. The permanent sigil stones. Closing Oblivion gates rewards you with sigil stones, but experienced players know the stone's power depends on your level when you remove it from the gate. This creates a tragic choice. Close gates immediately to save cities receiving weak stones, or leave gates open, letting people suffer while you level up for better rewards. Some players theorize this reflects the nature of heroism itself. True heroes sacrifice personal power for others' safety. Opportunists optimize rewards at others' expense. The game doesn't judge your choice mechanically, but it creates a moral dilemma. Each gate you leave open means more Daedra pouring into Cyrodiil, more deaths, more destruction. Yet the practical benefits of waiting make mathematical sense. The hero of Kvatch must choose between being a hero or being powerful, rarely both. Agranak Gromalog's Noble Tragedy. The Grey Prince questline reveals Agranak is the son of a vampire lord who raped his mother. This knowledge destroys him. He was proud of his noble blood, believing his father was an honorable aristocrat. Learning the truth that he's the product of violence and his noble heritage is a lie shatters his identity completely. When you face him in the Grand Championship, he refuses to fight, allowing you to kill him. He's already dead inside, his sense of self annihilated by truth. Some players leave him alive, refusing to complete the arena questline. Others see his death as mercy, releasing him from knowledge too painful to bear. His mother kept the secret to protect him, but eventually the truth emerged. Agranac's tragedy isn't the rape or the vampirism, but learning that everything he believed about himself was based on a comfortable lie. The sunken settlements. Throughout Cyrodiil's lakes and rivers, careful swimmers discover ruined structures beneath the water's surface. These aren't Ayleid ruins, but human settlements that sank or were flooded centuries ago. Some show signs of rapid submersion, structures intact but drowned. Others suggest gradual flooding, people abandoning homes as waters rose. These ruins aren't marked on maps or mentioned in dialogue. They're environmental storytelling, evidence of disasters or changes in water levels over time. Some contain treasures, suggesting inhabitants fled quickly without collecting valuables. Others are picked clean, looted by previous divers. The game never explains what happened to these settlements. Natural disasters, magical catastrophes, simple time and erosion. The submerged buildings are forgotten, known only to fish and those brave enough to explore underwater. Vicente Valtieri's ancient friendship, the Dark Brotherhood vampire Vicente, is far older than he appears, having served the organization for centuries. Dialogue reveals he knew previous listeners and speakers, watched the Brotherhood's glory days, and survived its decline. He treats assassination as an art form because he's had centuries to perfect the craft. When the sanctuary is destroyed, Vicente is one of the casualties, ending hundreds of years of service. His death feels especially tragic because he represents living history. He remembered things no one else alive knows, techniques and contracts from ages past. When he dies, that knowledge dies with him. He never wrote his memoirs, never trained a successor properly. The Brotherhood loses its connection to its own past when Vicente falls. He was a bridge to the organization's golden age, and now that bridge is gone. Antoinette Marie's revolutionary reference. Antoinette Marie in the Dark Brotherhood Sanctuary is named after Marie Antoinette, the French queen executed during the French Revolution. Like her namesake, Antoinette is doomed to a violent end when the sanctuary is attacked. Her dialogue includes ambitions to lead the sanctuary someday, mirroring Marie Antoinette's rise to power. The reference extends to her personality, cheerful, somewhat naive, unaware of the danger approaching. When the Penitus Oculatus attacks, she dies defending the sanctuary, her dreams of leadership unfulfilled. Some players see her death as historically fitting. Others view it as tragic waste, a skilled assassin cut down before reaching her potential. Bethesda's choice to name her after a beheaded queen foreshadows her fate, though most players don't realize the connection until after she's dead. The paintbrush that defies gravity. In the Bruma Mages Guild, you can find a paintbrush floating in mid-air, completely defying physics. This isn't magical suspension, but a development error that became an iconic Easter egg. The brush is stuck in collision geometry, creating the illusion of levitation. Players can interact with it, picking it up like any normal item, but returning later shows another brush suspended in the same spot. This glitch became so beloved that Bethesda kept it in the game deliberately. It represents Oblivion's charming imperfections, the quirks that give the game character. The floating paintbrush has no lore explanation, no magical justification. It's simply there, a reminder that even in a world of dragons and demons, sometimes things just don't make sense. The abandoned waterfront shack. In the Imperial City waterfront district, an abandoned shack contains strange clues, skeletal remains, bloodstains, and mysterious marks on the walls. No quest leads here. No NPC mentions it. The shack is environmental storytelling without explanation. The remains suggest violence, but the position doesn't indicate struggle. The bloodstains are old, years or decades dried. Whatever happened here occurred long before you arrived. Some players theorize it's a serial killer's hideout. Others suggest vampire activity. The most disturbing interpretation is that the shack was a torture chamber, used for dark rituals or interrogations. The waterfront is home to criminals and desperate people, making it the perfect location for hidden atrocities. The authorities never investigate. The shack simply remains, a crime scene without witnesses, victims without justice. Skooma Den operations, several locations in Cyrodiil, function as skooma dens where addicts gather to use the illegal narcotic. These aren't quest locations, but atmospheric details showing the dark side of imperial society. You can find skooma scattered in various hideouts, along with addicts in various states of intoxication. The game treats skooma as both illegal, contraband, and legitimate alchemy ingredient, highlighting the hypostructure complexity of drug policy. Some NPCs are clearly addicted, their behavior erratic, their lives destroyed. Others sell skooma for profit, exploiting addiction for gold. The guards crack down on dealers while users suffer without help. This mirrors real-world drug policy, showing Bethesda's willingness to address difficult themes. Cyrodiil has a drug problem, and nobody seems equipped to solve it. The testing hall's developer secrets. Using console commands, players can access the testing hall, a developer area containing every item, weapon, and armor piece in the game. This room was never meant for players, but became legendary among the community. Inside you find NPCs voiced by developers, including Todd Howard himself. The hall contains debug tools, test objects, and prototype items that didn't make the final game. Exploring it feels like stepping behind the curtain, seeing the machinery that powers Cyrodiil. Some items in the testing hall have placeholder names or nonsense descriptions. Others are finished but were cut from the game for balance or story reasons. The hall represents Oblivion's development history, preserved in a space players weren't supposed to reach. The Skingrad Castle interior design. Skingrad Castle's exterior is modelled after Bran Castle in Romania, famous as Dracula's castle. This is intentional given that Skingrad's count is a vampire. The castle's architecture mirrors Gothic horror aesthetics, all dark stone and dramatic architecture. Inside, the furnishings are elegant but cold, reflecting the Count's undead nature. He maintains appearances but cannot truly enjoy his surroundings. The castle feels empty despite servants, a hollow shell maintained by tradition. This environmental storytelling reinforces the Count's tragedy. He's trapped in a role, playing at being a noble while his true nature demands blood. The castle is his prison as much as his home, a monument to what he's lost. The Dracula reference makes his vampirism obvious to players familiar with the source material, adding layers of meaning to his storyline. The Nirnroot's sinister purpose. Nirnroot plants grow near water, emitting a distinctive chime. In Oblivion, they're rare and used for a Mages Guild quest that requires collecting samples. The quest seems straightforward, but examining the dialogue reveals disturbing implications. The researcher wants Nirnroot for its unique properties, but his notes suggest destructive testing. He's not studying Nirnroot to preserve it, but to understand how to destroy similar plants. Some players theorize this connects to the Thalmor's later schemes in Skyrim. Others believe it's simple academic curiosity without regard for conservation. The Nirnroot quest asks you to harvest every sample you find, potentially driving the plant toward extinction. The game doesn't judge this, treating it as a simple collection quest. But you're potentially eliminating a rare species for one researcher's experimentation. Martin's lost love. Martin's septim mentions a past relationship that ended badly, contributing to his decision to join the priesthood. The details are vague, but his dialogue suggests deep regret. He loved someone he couldn't be with, possibly due to class differences or family disapproval. Rather than fight for the relationship, he fled into religious service, trying to forget through dedication to Akatosh. When he learns he's Emperor Uriel's son, this context becomes tragic. His royal blood meant he could have married anyone, but he didn't know. His sacrifice at the end of the main quest ensures he'll never experience love again. He dies saving Tamriel, fulfilling duty, but his personal happiness was sacrificed long before the Oblivion crisis. Martin is a man defined by loss, and his heroic death is just the final loss in a life full of them. The woman he loved likely moved on, married someone else. Never, knowing Martin was actually Prince, who abandoned her not from lack of caring, but from ignorance of his own worth. This missed connection haunts the entire main quest line if you pay attention to Martin's dialogue. He speaks about duty and sacrifice with the voice of someone who's already surrendered everything that mattered personally. Saving the world cost him nothing he hasn't already lost. His transformation into dragon avatar is just making literal the self-destruction he's been enacting for years through isolation and suppressed emotion. Martin dies a virgin priest who once loved deeply, and that love's loss shaped everything that followed in his life. Jael's hidden resistance. Jael runs the Bruma Fighters Guild Hall, but dialogue hints at her involvement in anti-Mythic Dawn activities. She provides intelligence to the Blades, feeding them information about cult activities. Her position at the guild gives her access to rumors and travelers, making her an ideal intelligence gatherer. When you fight the Mythic Dawn, you're benefiting from information networks Jael helped establish. She's risking her life without fanfare, never asking for recognition. If the cult discovers her role, she'll be targeted for assassination. Yet she continues providing intelligence, believing in the cause. Her courage is understated, presented through subtle dialogue rather than grand declarations. She represents the countless unnamed heroes who fight threats from the shadows, never receiving medals or glory. The Orange Road's scenic route. The Orange Road is a rarely traveled path offering stunning views of the Imperial City from unique vantage points. No quests direct you here, making it a secret for explorers who wander off main routes. The road was designed to showcase Cyrodiil's beauty, giving players who take time to explore rewards in the form of breathtaking vistas. Along the Orange Road, you find evidence of other travelers, abandoned camps, destroyed caravans, the aftermath of bandit attacks. The scenery is beautiful, but the road is dangerous. This juxtaposition captures Cyrodiil's duality. Stunning natural beauty hiding constant threats. Those who rush through the game miss the Orange Road entirely. It's a gift to patient players willing to wander without objectives, discovering art hidden in level design. The Dead Scholars in Anvil. In Anvil's Mages Guild basement, you can find skeletal remains among the alchemy equipment and books. These aren't random corpses, but the bodies of previous researchers who died during magical experiments. The guild apparently leaves the remains as warnings or hasn't bothered removing them. This suggests a disturbing casualness about death within magical institutions. Experimental magic is dangerous, and the guild accepts fatalities as inevitable. The skeletons are nameless, forgotten researchers who pushed too far. Nobody remembers their names or studies, their cautionary tales reduced to anonymous bones. This environmental detail shows magic's price. Power requires sacrifice, and not everyone survives the pursuit. The Mages Guild acknowledges this implicitly, leaving the bodies in place. The Cheydinhal Corruption Network. Cheydinhal is more corrupt than it initially appears. The Count's son Farwill is incompetent, leading to disasters. The guard force is understaffed and overworked. Various NPCs mention kickback schemes and bribery determining which merchants receive city contracts. The Dark Brotherhood operates a sanctuary right outside town, suggesting either guild corruption or guard incompetence. Despite these problems, Cheydinhal functions, proving corruption has become systematic rather than chaotic. Those in power benefit, so problems are ignored rather than solved. If you report crimes or suspicious activity, guards shrug it off. They're either complicit or resigned to the city's decay. This realistic portrayal of institutional corruption makes Cheydinhal feel disturbingly modern, showing not all evil comes from Oblivion Gates. Dharma's disappearance protocol. When Dharma is kidnapped in the Hackdirt quest, her mother Bogram Grobash reacts with practiced efficiency. She immediately knows who to contact and what steps to take. This implies Dharma has been in danger before, possibly has been kidnapped previously. The mother's familiarity with crisis response suggests this isn't their first experience with violence. Dharma's profession as merchant puts her in danger regularly, traveling between towns with valuable goods. Bogram has protocols established. Contact the Fighters Guild, send for help, wait for professionals. Her calm in crisis comes from experience, learned through previous traumas. When you rescue Dharma, you're solving this instance of a recurring problem. They'll face danger again, and Bogram will respond with the same practiced efficiency. A mother resigned to protecting her daughter from a hostile world. The paranoid Coral citizen. In Coral, one unnamed NPC exhibits extreme paranoia, checking over their shoulder constantly and avoiding eye contact. This character has no associated quest or dialogue, existing purely as environmental NPC behavior. If you follow them, they take circuitous routes home, doubling back to check if they're being followed. They avoid dark alleys, stick to populated areas, behave like someone genuinely afraid. What terrifies this citizen? Are they right to be paranoid? Coral has its share of crime, but this person's fear seems excessive unless they have specific reason to worry. Perhaps they witnessed something they shouldn't have. Perhaps they're hiding from someone. The game never explains, leaving this frightened individual as atmospheric detail, background tragedy you're not equipped to solve. The Goblin War dynamics. Throughout Cyrodiil, Goblin tribes war against each other, carrying tribal totems and defending territory. This isn't random violence but organized conflict between distinct communities. Each tribe has its own totem, culture, and territory. They conduct raids, take prisoners, and maintain grudges across generations. Players can influence these wars by stealing totems and planting them in rival territories, triggering invasions. This reveals sophisticated goblin society beneath their monstrous exterior. They're not mindless animals, but organized civilizations with politics and warfare. The game lets you commit war crimes against them, stealing sacred totems, causing tribal conflicts, manipulating violence for personal gain. The goblins can't speak common, can't negotiate, can't explain themselves. From their perspective, you're a demon causing inexplicable devastation to their societies. The Kvatch Survivors Guild. The few survivors of Kvatch's destruction carry psychological scars throughout the game. Savlian Matthias leads the defense with grim determination, knowing he failed to save most citizens. His efficiency in combat comes from channeling guilt into productive action. Other survivors exhibit depression, trauma, or survivor's guilt. They question why they lived when neighbors died. Some lose faith in the divines, unable to reconcile a just universe with what they experienced. Others cling to faith more desperately, needing to believe the suffering had meaning. The game portrays realistic trauma responses, showing not everyone recovers from witnessing hell literally open beneath their city. These survivors are walking wounded, alive but permanently changed. Arkved's Nightmare Tower. Arkved's tower appears normal from outside, but interior manifests the mage's nightmare. Upside-down rooms, random teleportation, reality-warping corridors await those who enter. This represents Arkved's mind corrupted by Vermina, the Daedric Prince of Nightmares. The tower becomes a physical manifestation of insanity, architecture defying logic and physics. Navigating it requires abandoning assumptions about how buildings should function. This design choice makes exploring the tower genuinely unsettling. You're walking through someone else's madness, experiencing environmental storytelling through impossible geometry. When you steal Vermina's artifact and escape, Arkved's mind presumably collapses further. The Nightmare Tower stands as a warning about Daedric worship's price. Power costs sanity, and Arkved paid in full. The Forlorn Watchman's eternal search. The Forlorn Watchman quest involves a ghost searching for his murdered crew. He's cursed to wander, unable to rest until his shipmates receive proper burial. This raises questions about Oblivion's afterlife mechanics. Why is he cursed, while his crewmates presumably found peace? What determines who becomes a ghost? The Watchman's devotion to his crew condemns him to undeath. His love for them becomes his curse, binding him to Tamriel when he should have passed on. When you complete his quest, laying his crew to rest, he finally finds peace. The quest suggests afterlife isn't automatic but depends on unfinished business or unresolved emotional attachments. The strongest bonds become chains, preventing souls from moving on. The ghost ship of Anvil. Near Anvil's coast, swimmers report seeing a ship that vanishes when approached. This ghost ship appears at specific times, usually dawn or dusk, creating spectral silhouettes on the water. Some players claim it's graphical glitches or distant ship rendering. Others insist it's a deliberate Easter egg, a reference to Flying Dutchman legends. The ship never docks, never responds to hails, simply sails and disappears. If it exists, its story remains unknown. Is it a ship lost in the Oblivion crisis? A vessel cursed by Daedra? A remnant from ages past, replaying its final voyage eternally? The mystery enhances Cyrodiil's coast, suggesting the sea holds secrets beyond what quest reveal. Gwydden Farm's suspicious prosperity. Gwydden Farm near Anvil appears unusually prosperous for its small size. The owner is friendly but evasive about income sources. If you investigate, you find the farm's location is ideal for smuggling, close to Anvil's docks, but isolated enough to avoid scrutiny. The barn is larger than necessary for the visible crops, suggesting storage for other purposes. Some players theorize Gwydden serves as a distribution point for skooma or stolen goods. The farmer isn't evil but pragmatic, supplementing legitimate farming with illegal activities. This makes economic sense in Oblivion's harsh economy. Honest farming barely supports a family, but smuggling provides comfort. The game doesn't judge this, presenting it as background detail. Cyrodiil's economy forces people into moral compromises, and Guidon represents survival through ethical flexibility. The Beggar Information Network. Beggars throughout Cyrodiil are connected through an information network, trading rumors and intelligence. If you befriend one beggar, others become more helpful, suggesting communication between them. This network parallels the Thieves Guild's intelligence operations, but operates independently. Beggars see everything because people ignore them. They witness crimes, overhear conversations, observe patterns invisible to those rushing through daily life. The network is unofficial and unorganized, but it exists, a shadow communication system among Cyrodiil's most invisible residents. When you need information, beggars often know more than nobles. They're underestimated, which makes them powerful. This realistic detail shows Bethesda understanding that knowledge flows through unexpected channels. The Shivering Isles Graveyard. In the Shivering Isles, any NPC who dies receives a tombstone in the graveyard, complete with humorous or tragic epitaphs. This feature is easily missed unless you deliberately kill NPCs and check the cemetery. Each death is acknowledged, recorded, memorialized. Sheogorath values his subjects enough to remember their deaths, even in his madness. The epitaphs reflect how they died, or their personality quirks. This attention to detail creates the impression of a living realm where deaths matter. Unlike mainland Cyrodiil, where dead NPCs simply despawn, the Shivering Isles maintains a record. This suggests Sheogorath, despite his insanity, cares about his realm's inhabitants in his own twisted way. The Dark Welkin Stones. In Ayleid ruins, you occasionally encounter Dark Welkin stones that teleport you randomly when touched. These were security systems, ancient magical traps designed to disorient intruders. Thousands of years later, they still function perfectly, highlighting Ayleid magical expertise. The stones don't kill, but disorient, suggesting the Ayleids valued confusion over destruction. Perhaps they enjoyed watching intruders stumble through their ruins, lost and frightened. The randomization means you can't predict teleportation destination, making the stones genuinely dangerous in combat situations. Some ruins use them strategically, teleporting intruders into ambushes or dead ends. These stones prove Ayleid engineering excellence, their magical traps outlasting their civilization by millennia. The Wizard's Tower ritual site. The Frostcrag Spire downloadable content provides a Wizard's Tower with disturbing implications. The tower includes an altar of spell making and enchanting, but the altar's design suggests darker rituals. The previous owner was a powerful mage who disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Did they ascend to another plane, die in a magical accident, transform into something inhuman? The tower is abandoned but functional, implying sudden departure. The previous owner left valuable equipment behind, suggesting they didn't plan to leave. The tower holds secrets its new owner, you, may never understand. Was your purchase legitimate, or are you occupying stolen property? The game never clarifies, leaving the tower's history mysterious. The Knights of the Nines. Cursed Armor. The Knights of the Nine expansion has you collect Crusaders' relics, holy artifacts from Pelennor Whitestrake. These items are blessed, but carrying them while you have infamy causes them to curse you instead. This mechanic forces moral behavior. Commit crimes and the armor punishes you. The relics judge your worthiness, demanding perfect adherence to heroic ideals. This creates interesting roleplay pressure. Can you remain perfectly moral? Will you sacrifice the powerful armor to maintain freedom? The cursed armor mechanics suggest divine artifacts have intelligence, or at least complex enchantments that evaluate moral behavior. They're not passive objects, but active judges, reflecting your actions back at you. The Vampire Cure's tragic choices. The Vampire Cure quest requires the blood of an Argonian, requiring you to convince a specific NPC to give blood or to murder them for it. This creates a moral dilemma. Save yourself through murder or convince someone to help. If you kill the Argonian, you're trading their life for your humanity, a fundamentally selfish act. If you persuade them, you're forcing them to aid someone who might prey on others in the future. The quest has no perfect solution. Either path requires moral compromise. This design choice makes vampirism feel genuinely cursed, not just mechanically inconvenient, but ethically challenging. The cure isn't free. Someone pays the price. The Mehrunes Razor's bloody history, Mehrunes' Razor, acquired through a downloadable quest, has a chance to instantly kill any target. This Daedric artifact has murdered countless victims across history. When you wield it, you're holding the same blade that's ended kings, heroes, and innocents. The dagger's enchantment is Mehrunes Dagon's nature crystallized. Sudden, destructive, unstoppable. Each kill feeds the blade, strengthening its connection to oblivion. Some players theorize using the razor too frequently risks Dagon's influence, that each instant kill brings the wielder closer to becoming an instrument of destruction, rather than a person. The dagger doesn't corrupt slowly but suddenly, mirroring its instant kill mechanic. One day, you're using a tool. The next, you're the tool. The Vile Lair's previous occupant. The Vile Lair downloadable content provides a vampire hideout with disturbing history. The Lair's previous owner was a vampire lord who conducted dark experiments in the dungeon levels. Evidence throughout the Lair suggests they created thralls, tortured victims, and researched forbidden magic. When you purchase the Lair, you're buying property soaked in suffering. The game doesn't require you to acknowledge this, treating it as simple real estate. But examining the environmental details reveals horror. The torture chamber is still functional. The cells still hold skeletal remains. You're not reclaiming the Lair, but continuing its dark legacy. The game lets you decide: cleanse the property or embrace its evil history. Manimarco's past connection. Manimarco, the King of Worms, has history with Galerion, founder of the Mages Guild. Their conflict shaped both organizations' philosophies. Manimarco advocates unrestricted magical research, including necromancy. Galerion established ethical guidelines limiting certain practices. Their ideological war continues through their respective institutions centuries later. When you fight Manimarco during the Mages Guild quest, you're participating in this ancient conflict. Your victory doesn't end it. New necromancers will rise, carrying Manimarco's ideology. New mages will enforce Galerion's restrictions. The conflict is philosophical, not personal, ensuring it outlasts individual participants. Your role is one battle in an eternal war about magic's proper use. The Mages Guild Purge. The Mages Guild questline reveals systematic corruption requiring violent purging. Traven's leadership pushes harsh anti-necromancy policies, causing internal division. Guild members defect, forming the Order of the Black Worm. When you hunt these defectors, you're executing former colleagues who chose differently than you. Some defected for power. Others genuinely believed necromancy should be permitted. The game doesn't explore their motivations deeply, treating them as enemies. But you're participating in ideological purge, eliminating those with different views. The guild emerges stronger, but smaller, unified through forced conformity. This mirrors real-world institutional purges where those in power eliminate dissent, claiming it's for the greater good. The Leowyn corruption scandal. Leowyn is deeply corrupt, with Count Marius Caro embezzling funds and the guard captain taking bribes. The city's infrastructure crumbles while leadership enriches themselves. Citizens know but can't act, lacking power to challenge nobility. The corruption is so systematic that honest governance seems impossible. When you complete quests in Leowyn, you're working within a broken system, unable to fix underlying problems. You can solve individual crimes, but can't address institutional rot. This realistic limitation makes Leowyn feel authentic. Not every problem has solutions. Sometimes corruption is too deep, too protected, too profitable for those in power. The best you can do is help individuals, knowing the system will continue failing. The Thieves Guild's honor code. The Thieves Guild forbids killing, maintaining a strict honor code separating thieves from murderers. This philosophy reflects Grey Fox's leadership, emphasizing professional standards. Breaking the code incurs blood price penalties, forcing you to pay for murder. This mechanic creates interesting tension. Can you succeed as a thief without killing? Is it possible to be honorable criminal? The Guild's philosophy argues yes, that theft is victimless compared to murder. This moral framework is questionable, but internally consistent. The Guild isn't evil, but pragmatic, operating with rules that limit harm while pursuing profit. This nuanced approach to criminal organizations makes the questline more interesting than simple good versus evil. The ultimate heist's impossible target. The Thieves Guild's final quest requires stealing an Elder Scroll from the Imperial Palace. This artifact is so valuable, so protected, that attempting theft seems impossible. Yet the Grey Fox has planned every detail, exploiting guards' routines and architectural vulnerabilities. The heist succeeds not through power, but through perfect information and timing. This demonstrates the Grey Fox's genius, his ability to achieve impossible goals through preparation. The Elder Scroll theft is the pinnacle of his career, the crime that defines his legend. When you complete it, you're not just stealing an artifact, but cementing the Thieves Guild's reputation. The impossible becomes possible through planning, patience, and perfect execution. Hieronymus Lex's obsession. Watch Captain Hieronymus Lex dedicates himself to destroying the Thieves Guild with religious fervor. His obsession consumes him, damaging his career and relationships. He's not wrong. The Guild is criminal. But his methods become increasingly desperate and unethical. He harasses innocent civilians, conducts illegal searches, violates civil liberties in pursuit of criminals. His corruption mirrors the Guild's. Both sacrifice principles for goals. When he's reassigned to Anvil, it's punishment for overreach. His obsession made him liability rather than asset. The game presents Lex sympathetically, despite making him an antagonist. He's not evil, but zealous, letting justice become obsession. His tragedy is believing the end justifies means, becoming what he fights. The Grey Cowl's curse. The Grey Cowl of Nocturnal erases the wearer's identity from memory. While wearing it, you're the Grey Fox. Remove it, and nobody remembers what you did. This blessing is also a curse. The original, Grey Fox has worn it so long he's forgotten his own name, existing only as the legendary thief. When you inherit the cowl, you risk the same fate. Each time you wear it, you reinforce the Grey Fox identity while weakening your own. Eventually, you might forget who you were before the cowl, becoming the next iteration of an eternal legend. The quest treats this as victory, but it's existential horror. You're slowly erasing yourself, sacrificing identity for legend. The Fighters Guild expansion. The Fighters Guild questline involves expanding into new territories and eliminating competition. This isn't heroic, but capitalistic, using violence to dominate market share. The Blackwood Company is destroyed not because they're evil, but because they compete for contracts. Some Blackwood members are victims, desperate fighters who join for work. When you destroy them, you're not saving Cyrodiil, but securing the Fighters Guild monopoly. This morally grey questline reflects real-world labour disputes and corporate warfare. The Guild is business first, justice second. Your role is enforcer, eliminating competition to protect market position. The game doesn't judge this explicitly, but examining the questline reveals uncomfortable parallels to economic violence. Velena Donton's leadership crisis. Velena Donton leads the Fighters Guild during a crisis, struggling to maintain organization against competition. Her leadership is competent but uninspired, reacting to threats rather than anticipating them. She relies heavily on you, the competent newcomer, to solve problems she can't handle. This reveals guild leadership vacuum. The organization needs stronger direction, but promotes based on seniority rather than ability. When you complete the questline, you've solved immediate crises, but underlying weakness remains. The guild survives, but doesn't thrive. Velena's leadership is adequate for peacetime, insufficient for challenges. She represents institutional mediocrity, the middle manager promoted past their competence level, clinging to position while more capable people do the actual work. Modrin Orin's revenge. Modrin Orin uses you to destroy the Blackwood Company, partly for business reasons, but primarily for revenge. His son died during a Blackwood contract, and Modrin blames the company. His leadership of the anti-Blackwood effort is personal vendetta disguised as professional rivalry. You're helping him achieve revenge while believing you're serving guild interests. This manipulation is subtle but present throughout the questline. Modrin's grief is real, his anger justified, but he's using institutional resources for personal goals. When the company is destroyed, he achieves closure but leaves the guild without competition, making them complacent. His revenge succeeds but at cost to the organization he claims to serve. The Blackwood Company's hissed sap. The Blackwood Company uses high sap to enhance combat performance, gaining berserker strength. This is addiction, not training. Members don't realize they're being drugged, believing their improvement comes from superior techniques. The company's leaders exploit them, creating effective but disposable fighters. When you infiltrate them, you discover the truth. Their advantage is chemical, not skill-based. This mirrors real-world performance-enhancing drug scandals. The Blackwood fighters are victims of their leadership's ambition. They trusted their organization, which betrayed them for profit. When you destroy the company, you're killing addicts along with their enablers. The questline doesn't deeply explore this, treating Blackwood fighters as enemies, but they're casualties of leadership that valued results over members' health. The Azani Blackheart deception. Azani Blackheart is supposedly a dangerous criminal, but investigating reveals a more complex situation. He's not a violent threat, but a business rival framed by Fighters Guild propaganda. The contract on him is politically motivated, eliminating someone who challenged guild interests. When you kill him, you're murdering on false pretenses, a tool of guild politics rather than justice. This quest tests whether you question orders or follow blindly. The game doesn't reveal the truth unless you investigate thoroughly. Most players complete the contract without realizing they've been manipulated. This design choice highlights how institutions use righteous language to justify questionable actions. The Kvatch recommendation crisis. Seeking the Mages Guild recommendation from Kvatch becomes impossible after the city's destruction. The guild hall is destroyed, its members dead or scattered. This creates a unique problem, a requirement that cannot be met through normal means. However, joining the guild in any other city removes the Kvatch requirement, acknowledging the impossibility. This mechanical solution has narrative weight. The guild recognizes that crisis changes requirements, that surviving Oblivion crisis matters more than bureaucratic procedure. This flexibility shows institutional adaptation, the guild valuing results over rigid rules when circumstances demand it. The Bruma recommendation theft. The Bruma recommendation quest requires you to find missing guild materials stolen by Jaskar. Tracking him reveals he's a desperate scholar, not malicious thief. He stole because he needed resources for research. The guild denied him materials, forcing him to steal. When you confront him, you can return him to the guild for punishment or keep his secret. This choice reflects your values: institutional loyalty versus individual mercy. Jaskar broke rules, but for understandable reasons. The guild's rigid resource control created the problem. Your decision determines whether bureaucracy or compassion wins. The quest highlights institutional inflexibility, how rigid rules create criminals from desperate people. The Cheydinhall recommendation politics. Falcar, applicant in Cheydinhall, sabotages competitors through increasingly dangerous assignments. He engineers Vidkun's death during the well investigation, eliminating competition. The guild leadership doesn't investigate, accepting the tragedy as accident. Only through your investigation does Falcar's guild emerge. This reveals guild politics at local level. Recommendations are competitive, creating incentive for sabotage. The system rewards ruthlessness rather than competence. Falcar nearly succeeds because leadership doesn't question convenient deaths. Your intervention saves lives, but doesn't reform the system. Future applicants will face similar dangers unless the guild changes recommendation requirements. The Coral recommendation investigation. The Coral recommendation involves investigating possible theft, revealing Irana seeking forbidden knowledge. She's not stealing for profit but for research, trying to circumvent guild restrictions. This mirrors the Manimarco conflict. Should knowledge be restricted? Irana believes information should be free, that guild limitations hurt magical advancement. The guild believes restrictions prevent dangerous research. Neither position is wrong absolutely. The questline forces you to choose. Return the book to the guild or give it to Irana. Your choice reflects your philosophy about knowledge and authority. Should institutions control information, or should individuals decide what's too dangerous? The Anvil recommendation scandal. The Anvil recommendation reveals guild corruption at local level. Carahil, the guild head, has been negligent, allowing problems to fester. The recommendation quest fixes immediate issues, but doesn't address her poor leadership. She remains in charge, likely to create future problems through continued incompetence. This realistic detail shows that not every problem gets solved. Sometimes incompetent people remain in power because removing them is politically difficult. The guild benefits from your intervention, but doesn't reform its leadership structure. Carahil's position is secure despite her failures, protected by bureaucracy and connections. The Leowyn Recommendation Guild War. The Leowyn Recommendation involves investigating guild infighting. Mages are feuding, creating hostile work environment. De Gale, the guild head, is mentally unstable, unable to control her subordinates. The recommendation quest resolves immediate conflict, but doesn't address Dagail's incompetence. She needs replacement, but the guild doesn't remove inadequate leaders. This institutional inertia allows dysfunction to continue. The Leowin Hall operates despite poor leadership, suggesting the organization can survive even when individual branches fail. This resilience comes at cost. Members suffer under bad leadership. Knowing complaint is futile. The Skingrad Recommendation Necromancy. The Skingrad Recommendation involves hunting necromancers near the city. This quest establishes anti-necromancy as guild policy. Adrian Barine sends you to eliminate practitioners, enforcing Traven's zero-tolerance stance. Some necromancers you kill are researchers, not criminals. They practice forbidden magic, but haven't harmed anyone. Your role is enforcer, eliminating those who violate ideological boundaries. This questline doesn't question whether necromancy should be banned, treating the policy as unquestionably correct. But you're killing people for practicing magic others disagree with. The questline's moral simplicity hides ethical complexity. Is thought crime worthy of death? The Bravil Recommendation Lost Ring. The Bravil Recommendation involves finding Ardeline's father's ring. This simple task reveals deeper story. Her father was a respected mage who died mysteriously. The ring is his legacy, the only item she has from him. When you recover it, you're not just completing a task, but returning irreplaceable memory. This personal quest humanizes guild bureaucracy, showing members have lives and losses beyond magical study. Ardeline's grief is quiet but profound. The ring represents her connection to her father. Without it, she's losing even his memory. Your recovery of the ring is mundane mechanically, but emotionally significant. The Arcane University Politics. Once you join the Mages Guild fully, accessing Arcane University reveals internal politics. Council members faction fight, pursuing personal agendas disguised as institutional policy. Traven's anti-necromancy crusade divides opinions. Some support zealous enforcement. Others see it as overreach. This political division weakens the guild while appearing unified externally. The council meetings you attend reveal professional disagreements and personal animosities. The guild is politically sophisticated organization, not monolithic institution. Members have different philosophies, creating dynamic tension rather than boring uniformity. This political complexity makes the guild feel realistic. The Necromancer's Moon phenomenon. During the Mages Guild questline, the Necromancer's Moon appears, an ethereal body giving necromancers power boost. This astronomical event is Manimarco's doing, demonstrating his power. The moon's presence terrifies the guild, proving Manimarco's threat is real. When you eventually defeat him, the moon disappears, indicating his personal power was sustaining it. This connection between individual power and cosmic phenomena highlights how powerful Manimarco truly is. He's not just powerful mage, but someone who can create celestial bodies. Your victory over him is proportionally impressive, defeating someone who commands astronomical forces. The Bloodworm Helm's corruption. During the Mages Guild questline, you recover the Bloodworm Helm, Manimarco's personal artifact. This item is cursed, tempting wearers with power while corrupting them toward necromancy. The helm whispers promises of immortality and knowledge. Wearing it provides mechanical benefits, but narrative risks. Are you being influenced by wearing dead necromancer's helm? The game doesn't force corruption, but implies it. The helm represents temptation, accept dark power or remain pure. This choice tests player values. Do you prioritize effectiveness or morality? The helm's power is real but comes from evil source. Using it means benefiting from Mannimarco's legacy. The Shade of the Revenant Mystery. The Shade of the Revenant appears during a plot revealed, a ghostly figure connected to Mannimarco's plans. Its true nature remains unclear. Is it undead creature, magical construct, or something else? The Shade serves Mannimarco, but seems semi-autonomous, suggesting intelligence. When you destroy it, you're eliminating a being whose nature you don't understand. The lack of explanation makes it unsettling. Is it sentient? Does it suffer? Or is it magical automaton without consciousness? The game doesn't clarify, leaving the Shade mysterious. This ambiguity enhances the horror. You're fighting things beyond your understanding in Mannimarco's service. Traven's Sacrifice. Archmage. Traven sacrifices himself to power the colossal Black Soul gem, providing weapon against Mannimarco. His sacrifice is strategic, understanding that defeating Mannimarco requires equivalent power. Traven's death empowers you, but also reveals his desperation. He's chosen martyrdom because he sees no other path to victory. This sacrifice has complex implications. Was it necessary, or could alternatives have succeeded? Traven believes in his choice, but his certainty doesn't guarantee correctness. His death might have been avoidable with different strategies. You never know if his sacrifice was heroic necessity or tragic mistake. Either way, his death weighs heavily on the guild's victory. The Interview with a Murderer Quest. During Corruption and Conscience, you interview Vidkun about his imprisonment. He's not actually guilty but framed, imprisoned for crimes he didn't commit. The interview reveals justice system corruption. Innocent people languish while guilty walk free. When you uncover truth, exposing the actual criminals, you're correcting one miscarriage of justice. But how many others suffer similarly? The quest implies widespread corruption. Vidkun's case is unusual only because you investigated. Countless others are wrongly imprisoned without advocates. This questline critiques justice systems that convict based on convenience rather than evidence. Your success helps one person, but doesn't reform broken system. The Legacy of Galerion. Throughout the Mages Guild questline, Galerion's legacy shapes current conflicts. His founding principles guide guild policy centuries after his death. Traven sees himself as Galerion's spiritual successor, enforcing ethical restrictions on magic. This creates question. Should long-dead founders' philosophy still govern? Circumstances change, but institutions resist. Adaptation. Galerion's rules made sense in his era, but might be outdated. The guild treats his legacy as sacred, unable to question founding principles. This institutional conservatism creates problems, enforcing rules without examining whether they still serve original purposes. The questline doesn't resolve this tension, presenting it as unavoidable institutional characteristic. The Cloud Ruler Temple's ancient order. Cloud Ruler Temple houses the Blades, Tamriel's ancient protectors. The temple's architecture suggests it's far older than the current Blades organization. Some sections date back to the First Era, with additions built over centuries. The Blades inherited rather than constructed this fortress. Who built it originally? The structure suggests Akaviri architecture, supporting theories that the Blades are descended from Akaviri dragon guards. These warriors came to Tamriel hunting dragons, eventually becoming imperial bodyguards. Cloud Ruler represents this history, A, fortress built by dragon hunters now housing the last protectors of a dragonborn emperor's heir. The temple's age and architecture tell stories the blades themselves may not fully understand. Joffrey's secret burden. Grandmaster Joffrey knows secrets that weigh on him. He protected Martin's identity for years, living in constant fear of discovery. His dedication cost him normal life. He never married, had no children, sacrificed personal happiness for duty. When Martin dies, Joffrey's life purpose dies with him. He spent decades protecting someone, succeeding in that protection, only to watch his charge sacrifice themselves anyway. Joffrey's story is tragic dedication. He did everything right, but still lost what mattered most. His grief at the game's end is profound but understated. He's a man whose entire identity was built around protecting someone who no longer exists. Borros's unwavering loyalty. Borros serves Emperor Uriel's septim with complete dedication. When the Emperor dies, Borros immediately transfers that loyalty to Martin, seeing the dragonborn heir as continuity of service. His loyalty isn't to individuals, but to the institution they represent. The Empire needs protecting, whoever leads it. This professional dedication makes Borros effective, but personally isolated. He has no life outside service. His relationships are professional, his emotions controlled. When he dies protecting you during the Mythic Dawn infiltration, he's fulfilled his life purpose. His death is meaningful to him, giving his life for the cause. Whether that meaning is tragic or noble depends on your perspective. The Mysterium Xarxes' Forbidden Knowledge. The Mysterium Xarxes is Mehrunes Dagon's personal book, containing knowledge that corrupts readers. Mankar Cameron used it to establish the Mythic Dawn cult, learning how to create Paradise Pocket Dimension. The book's knowledge is simultaneously true and destructive. Reading it gives power, but costs sanity. When you steal it from the Mythic Dawn, Martin uses it to understand Daedric magic without being corrupted. This requires enormous willpower. Lesser mages would be consumed by the knowledge. The book represents dangerous truth. Some knowledge destroys those who learn it. The Mysterium Xarxes is philosophically similar to forbidden books in Lovecraft's work, holding information that breaks human minds. Mankar Cameron's Paradise Deception. Paradise, Cameron's realm, is presented as reward for faithful Mythic Dawn members, but examining it reveals horror. The Paradise is prison where members are hunted eternally, dying and respawning in endless cycle. The faithful believed they'd be rewarded, but instead became Cameron's playthings. This betrayal suggests Cameron either lied deliberately or genuinely believed this torture was paradise. If the latter, his understanding of reward is so warped by Daedric influence that he can't distinguish heaven from hell. Either way, Mythic Dawn members are victims. They sacrificed everything for promised reward, receiving eternal torment instead. The punishment of Cameron's family. Mankar. Cameron's children serve him in paradise, but their dialogue suggests coercion rather than choice. They're trapped serving their father, unable to escape even if they wanted. This suggests Cameron's megalomania extended to his family. He imprisoned his own children in his pocket dimension, forcing them to serve his vision. When you kill them, you're releasing them from bondage, though the game doesn't frame it as mercy. The children's characterization is limited, but implications are disturbing. They're prisoners of their father's ambition. Family bonds transformed into chains. The Amulet of King's Destruction. The Amulet of Kings maintains the barrier between Oblivion and Mundus. Its destruction during Martin's transformation ends the Septim dynasty and removes divine protection from Tamriel. This sacrifice saves the immediate crisis, but creates long-term vulnerability. Without the amulet, future Daedric invasions become easier. Martin's choice is strategically questionable. He saves Cyrodiil now, but leaves Tamriel defenseless later. The game treats this as heroic, but examining the implications reveals troubling consequences. Martin's sacrifice is noble, but possibly short-sighted. His death solves one problem while creating others his world must face without him. The empty Imperial throne. After the main quest, the Imperial throne sits empty with no clear successor. This power vacuum will cause civil war, though the game doesn't show this. Factions will compete for control. Provinces may declare independence. The empire Martin died to save may collapse anyway, torn apart by succession crisis. Your victory is hollow. You saved Cyrodiil from Daedra, but delivered it to human chaos. This realistic outcome shows that military victory doesn't guarantee political stability. The Oblivion crisis ends, but Tamriel's problems continue. The empty throne represents questions the game doesn't answer about the future you've created. The prophet in the Imperial prison. The game begins with a prophet imprisoned near your cell, raving about doom and darkness. Most players ignore him as random madman, but his prophecies are accurate. He predicts the crisis, the gates, the destruction. How does he know? Is he divinely inspired, seeing futures through the eyes of a god? Or is he Mythic Dawn member, imprisoned for knowing too much? The game never explains. His atmospheric detail, adding tension to the prison escape. But his knowledge suggests something more. Perhaps he's a failed hero from a previous Kalpa, remembering a timeline that already occurred. Perhaps he's simply insane, his ravings coincidentally accurate. The Renault brothers' criminal empire. The Renault brothers operate smuggling empire from the waterfront, moving illegal goods through Imperial City. Their operation is sophisticated, involving bribes, scouts, and safe houses. They're not common criminals, but organized crime professionals. The game lets you destroy their operation or work with them. If you work with them, you're enabling empire that likely causes significant harm. Their smuggling network moves skooma, stolen goods, contraband weapons. Your assistance helps them expand operations. The game doesn't judge this choice explicitly, but you're choosing profit over justice. The Renault brothers represent systemic crime that thrives because people look away. The waterfront's economic desperation. The Imperial City waterfront is slum where desperate people live in poverty while nobles party nearby. This economic inequality creates an environment where crime thrives. The Thieves Guild recruits here. The beggars form their network. People turn to illegal activities because legitimate work doesn't pay enough to survive. The waterfront represents systemic failure. The richest city in Tamriel has crushing poverty in its shadow. This inequality isn't accidental, but structural. The economy is designed to concentrate wealth, leaving scraps for those at the bottom. The game shows this without explicitly commenting, trusting players to recognize injustice. The arena combatants' short careers. Arena fighters have brutal short careers. Most die young, killed in combat for crowd entertainment. The few who survive long enough to retire carry physical and mental scars. The arena represents exploitation. Desperate people risk death for money and fame. The crowd cheers their pain. When you participate, you're complicit in this system. You're not just fighting for yourself, but validating the arena's existence. Your success encourages others to try, likely dying in the attempt. The arena is morally problematic entertainment, violence a spectacle. The game lets you participate without judgment, but examining the system reveals its horror. The Yellow Team's mysterious deaths. Before you arrive, the Yellow Team was decimated by mysterious deaths. Official story blames training accidents, but the pattern suggests foul play. Someone was eliminating Yellow Team members systematically. When you join, you're entering a situation with unresolved murders. The game never explains who killed Yellow Team or why. This loose thread suggests corruption in arena management or rival team sabotage. Either way, joining Yellow Team means accepting risks beyond normal combat. You might be next target for whoever killed your predecessors. Owen's secret shame. Owen, Yellow Team member, carries secret shame from his past. He was discharged from the Legion for cowardice during battle. He fled, abandoning comrades. The arena is his attempt at redemption, proving bravery he lacked when it mattered. But fighting for entertainment isn't the same as fighting for survival or comrades. Owen knows this. His arena success doesn't erase his failure. When he fights beside you, he's seeking something he can never find: absolution for abandoning those who trusted him. His story is about how some mistakes can't be unmade. The Grand Champion's curse. Becoming Grand Champion seems like victory, but previous champions' fates suggest otherwise. Most die violent deaths or disappear mysteriously. The title attracts assassins, rivals, and those seeking fame by killing the famous. Your championship is target painted on your back. The adoring fans' appearance reinforces this. You can't have normal life anymore. Everyone knows who you are, making you vulnerable. The championship is curse disguised as achievement. You won fame at the cost of safety and privacy. The skooma trade's imperial connections. Cyrodiil's skooma trade requires protection from high-ranking officials. The trade is too sophisticated, too widespread to operate without government corruption. Someone in imperial administration is being paid to look away. This implicates nobility and potentially the Elder Council. The drug trade serves the powerful's interests. It pacifies the poor, generates illegal profits that can be laundered, and creates scapegoats when crackdowns are politically necessary. Your interactions with skooma trade reveal symptom of deeper corruption you're not equipped to address. The Khajiit caravan's true purpose. Khajiit trading caravans are banned from cities, forced to camp outside walls. Official reason is crime prevention, but this is racism institutionalized into law. The caravans aren't more criminal than other merchants. They're just easier to discriminate against. This policy forces Khajiit into isolation, making legitimate trade harder while pushing some toward illegal activities. The discrimination is self-fulfilling prophecy. Treat people as criminals, and some become criminals because legal options are restricted. The game presents this situation without explicit commentary, trusting players to recognize injustice. The Blackwood Company's moral complexity. The Blackwood Company isn't simply evil. They started as legitimate competitors offering services at lower prices. Their use of hiss sap was originally voluntary, members choosing enhancement. The corruption came gradually as leadership became obsessed with performance. By the time you encounter them, they've crossed ethical lines. But they began as people trying to earn honest living in competitive market. Their tragedy is how economic pressure combined with unethical leadership transformed good people into monsters. The destruction of Blackwood Company is merciful, but also wasteful. Those fighters could have been rehabilitated, but the Fighters Guild chooses elimination over reformation. The History's alien nature. Histories are sentient beings with alien intelligence. They communicate with Argonians through psychic connection. When Blackwood Company uses his sap as drug, they're exploiting consciousness for profit. The tree being harvested might be suffering, might understand it's being used. The game doesn't explore this, treating high sap as simple alchemy ingredient. But implications are disturbing. You're dealing with exploitation of intelligent beings who can't communicate their perspective to non-Argonians. The ethical implications go unexamined because the victims can't speak in ways other races understand. The Argonian identity crisis. Argonians in Cyrodiil are disconnected from their High-Tree heritage. They live in empire, surrounded by other races, often discriminated against. Many have never visited Black Marsh or experienced his connection. This cultural disconnection creates identity crisis. Are they Argonian or Imperial? They look different but behave like Imperials, having assimilated into the dominant culture. This assimilation is survival strategy, but also cultural loss. The game shows this subtly through Argonian NPCs who speak without accent, worship Imperial gods, have forgotten their heritage. They've traded cultural identity for acceptance. The Darks, Brotherhood's religious foundation. The Dark Brotherhood worships Sithis, the Void, and honors the Night Mother. This religion frames murder as sacred act, killing as worship. Members aren't common criminals, but faithful servants of Dark God. This religious framing changes the moral calculus. They're not killing for money, but fulfilling divine purpose. Money is incidental to spiritual mission. This makes them more dangerous than mercenaries. You can't negotiate with religious conviction. The Brotherhood believes they're serving higher purpose, that every murder brings them closer to their God. This fanaticism explains their efficiency and dedication. The Night Mother's true nature. The Night Mother is corpse. The Brotherhood treats as divine oracle. She speaks to listener, providing contracts. But who or what is Night Mother? Is she undead, possessed by Sithis? Or is listener delusional, hearing voices from corpse? The game never clarifies. The Brotherhood's faith is real, but the object of faith might be delusion. This ambiguity is intentional. Faith doesn't require proof. The Night Mother's power comes from believers, not from her objective reality. Whether she's real or imagined, her influence on the Brotherhood is undeniable. Lucien Lechance's noble purpose. Lucien Lechance serves the Brotherhood with complete dedication. He recruits you, guides you, believes in the organization's sacred mission. When he's betrayed and killed, his dying words show no bitterness toward the Brotherhood itself. He blames traitors, not the institution. His faith never wavers. Even death can't shake his conviction that the Brotherhood is righteous. This dedication is admirable and tragic. He gave everything to organization that failed him, killed by members he trained. Yet he dies believing, proving faith can survive even ultimate betrayal. The traitor among the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood's destruction comes from within. Mathieu Bellamont infiltrates, seeking revenge for his mother's murder by the Brotherhood. His entire life has been preparation for this vengeance. He joins, rises through ranks, earns trust, all while planning sabotage. His dedication is terrifying. He sacrifices years, kills on command, becomes the thing he hates, all to destroy it from inside. When his plan succeeds, resulting in Sanctuary's destruction, he's achieved revenge at enormous personal cost. He became a killer to kill killers, embraced darkness to destroy darkness. Whether this sacrifice was worth it is unclear. The Purification's moral horror. During the Purification, Lucian orders you to kill everyone in Cheydinhal Sanctuary. This tests your loyalty, seeing if you'll murder family for the Brotherhood. Each member you kill trusted you. They're your colleagues, people who trained with you, fought beside you. The quest forces you to become betrayer, killing people who did nothing wrong except exist when the order came. Some players refuse this quest, abandoning the Brotherhood. Others complete it mechanically, not thinking about implications. The quest is designed to disturb, making you complicit in atrocity. The Brotherhood tests loyalty by seeing if you'll commit evil on command. The dead drop system's paranoia. After Cheydinhal's destruction, contracts come through dead drops, notes left in hidden locations. This system is paranoid but necessary. The Brotherhood can't trust direct contact anymore. Dead drops ensure anonymity, protecting both client and assassin. But this system also isolates members. You never meet other assassins, never form relationships. You're alone, receiving orders from unknown sources. This isolation is strategically sound, but psychologically damaging. The Brotherhood becomes a collection of individuals rather than community. The human connection that made Cheydinhal meaningful is replaced by cold efficiency. The meaning of Sithis. Sithis represents the void, nothingness, entropy. Worshipping Sithis means embracing nihilism. If everything returns to void eventually, nothing matters except the moment. Murder is acceptable because death is everyone's destination anyway. You're just accelerating inevitable. This philosophy is consistent but horrifying. It removes all moral restraint. The Brotherhood's religion justifies atrocity through theological nihilism. When you serve Sithis, you're rejecting meaning itself. The game lets you embrace this philosophy or reject it. Your choice defines whether you're assassin or murderer. The listener's burden. Becoming listener means hearing Night Mother directly, receiving contracts from the source. This is presented as honor, promotion to Brotherhood's highest rank. But examining implications reveals curse. The listener is isolated, hearing voices others can't hear, unable to verify if the Night Mother's commands are real or delusion. Previous listeners went mad. The position requires absolute faith without evidence. You must trust that the corpse speaks truth, that your murders serve divine purpose. Doubt would destroy you. The listener must believe absolutely or collapse under the weight of actions they've committed. The Sanctuary's architectural secrets. Dark Brotherhood sanctuaries are built in hidden locations with elaborate security. The doors are magically protected, responding only to passwords. But who built these sanctuaries? The Brotherhood's history spans centuries. Current members inherited rather than constructed these hideouts. The architecture suggests Dwemer or Aliad origins, ancient structures repurposed by assassins. This raises questions. Did previous civilizations build murder temples? Or did the Brotherhood add their purposes to innocent structures? The Sanctuary's age and sophistication suggest dark history, generations of assassins using the same spaces, blood soaking into ancient stone. Ochiva's quiet leadership. Ochiva manages Cheydinhal Sanctuary with efficiency and no ambition for advancement. She's content serving, not leading. This contentment makes her effective administrator, but also tragic figure. She could lead, but chooses not to, satisfied with her role. When the sanctuary is destroyed, she dies defending it, loyal to the end. Her death is meaningful to her, but unnoticed by the wider world. She represents those who serve without seeking glory, finding purpose in duty rather than achievement. The Brotherhood loses organizational backbone when she falls. Telendril's addiction. Telendril is skooma addict serving in the Brotherhood. The organization tolerates her addiction as long as she completes contracts. This pragmatism is disturbing. The Brotherhood doesn't care about members' well-being, only their utility. Telendril is functional addict, managing dependency while fulfilling duties. When she dies during the purification, the tragedy is compounded. She survived addiction, found purpose in the Brotherhood, then was murdered by a member she trusted. Her death is waste of someone who overcame personal demons, only to be betrayed by the only family she had. Vicente Valtieri's ethical vampirism. Vicente is a vampire who feeds ethically within the Brotherhood context. He drinks from targets after killing them, wasting nothing. He doesn't create new vampires, doesn't spread his curse. His vampirism is integrated into his professional life without causing additional harm. This ethical approach to monstrosity is interesting. Vicente is predator who's found sustainable way to feed without increasing suffering. He's already killing for the Brotherhood. Drinking from corpses adds no new victims. This pragmatic morality shows how monsters can operate within ethical frameworks, minimizing harm even while remaining monstrous. The Grey Fox's identity curse. The Grey Fox's cowl erases the wearer's identity from everyone's memory. This allows perfect criminality, but destroys personal life. The current Grey Fox has worn the cowl so long that nobody remembers his true name, including himself. He exists only as legend, his original identity completely gone. When you inherit the cowl, you're warned about this curse. Wear it too often, and you'll forget who you were. The cowl offers power at cost of self. This Faustian bargain is perfect metaphor for ambition-consuming identity. Corvus Umbranox's lost decade. Corvus Umbranox, Count of Anvil, is the Grey Fox. He's been unable to remove the cowl for years, living double life that's destroying him. His wife doesn't recognize him. His city runs without his visible presence. He's become ghost in his own life, watching from shadows, as someone else lives his identity. When you finally break the curse, returning his identity, the reunion with his wife is bittersweet. He's lost years with her, years he can never recover. The curse is broken, but the damage remains. Time lost can't be reclaimed. The ultimate heist's political implications. Stealing the Elder Scroll from the Imperial Palace is more than theft. It's a political statement. The Grey Fox is announcing that Imperial security is inadequate, that even the most protected treasures can be stolen. This humiliation damages the Empire's credibility. If they can't protect their own palace, how can they protect Cyrodiil? The heist has consequences beyond the stolen artifact. It undermines trust in Imperial institutions, proving that the powerful are vulnerable. The Grey Fox achieves legendary status, but also destabilizes political order. The Thieves Guild's social function. The Thieves Guild redistributes wealth in ways official economy doesn't. They steal from the wealthy, creating black markets where the poor can afford goods. This Robin Hood dynamic makes them popular despite being criminals. They're providing economic function, albeit illegally. When you work for the guild, you're part of alternative economy that serves people failed by legitimate systems. The guild isn't charitable, but their existence creates opportunities for those excluded from official commerce. Skriva's hidden network. Skriva runs Bravil's Thieves Guild operations with quiet efficiency. She's connected to wider criminal networks across Cyrodiil and beyond. Her position seems minor, but she's coordinating activities across multiple cities. Messages pass through her hands, goods flow through her fences. She's communication hub for the guild's operations. When you work with her, you're accessing network that extends far beyond what's visible. Scriva represents the invisible infrastructure keeping the guild functional. The bust of Lethasa. Indaris. One Thieves Guild quest involves stealing a bust of Lethasa Indaris. The quest seems simple until you research who Lethasa was. A dark elf noble who disappeared mysteriously. The bust is only remaining image of her. When you steal it, you're erasing her from history. Whoever commissioned the theft wanted her memory destroyed. The quest has darker implications than apparent. You're participating in historical erasure, removing evidence of someone's existence. The guild doesn't question client motives. They just steal what they're paid to steal. Amuset's resilience. Amuset starts as unsuccessful thief who gets caught repeatedly. Through the questline, he develops competence, learning from failures. His growth is realistic. He's not naturally talented but persistent. Eventually, he becomes capable thief through determination. His character arc shows that skill comes from practice and learning from mistakes. Amuset represents the reality that most people aren't prodigies. Success comes from refusing to quit despite repeated failures. His eventual competence is earned through experience rather than innate ability. Methredel's professional pride. Methredel is perfectionist thief who takes pride in her work. She's not stealing for survival but for craft. She sees theft as art form, judging jobs by difficulty and elegance. When you work with her, she evaluates your technique critically. Her standards are high because she respects the profession. Methredel represents the difference between criminal and artist. She's both, refusing to compromise quality, even when easier methods exist. Her pride in the craft elevates theft from crime to vocation. The boots of Springheel Jack's tragic history. The boots of Springheel Jack were created by Master Thief who died testing them. The boots allow incredible jumping, but have fatal flaw. They don't prevent fall damage. Springheel Jack jumped higher than anyone before, then fell to his death. The boots represent ambition exceeding wisdom. Technology that enables without protecting. When you acquire them for a quest, you're using item that killed its creator. The boots are simultaneously achievement and warning. They let you reach heights impossible otherwise, but won't save you from the fall. The Sins of the Father quest. Sins of the Father involves a son trying to make amends for his father's crimes. The father stole from someone powerful, and the son is paying the price for his parents' actions. This inherited guilt is unfair, but realistic. Children do suffer for parents' mistakes. The son didn't commit the crime, but bears responsibility anyway. When you help him, you're addressing injustice of inherited punishment. The quest explores whether people should be held accountable for crimes they didn't commit, simply because of family connection. The Arrow of Extrication. Mystery. During a Thieves Guild quest, you use the Arrow of Extrication, which can be fired through solid objects to hit switches behind walls. This arrow defies physics, passing through matter without resistance. How was it created? The enchantment suggests Daedric influence or powerful Ayleid magic. The arrow's existence proves there are magical techniques lost to modern smiths. It's artifact from more sophisticated age, technology current civilization can't replicate. The arrow represents knowledge lost to time, capability that existed but can't be recreated. The Ultimate Heist's aftermath. After stealing the Elder Scroll, political fallout is enormous, though not shown in-game. The Imperial Palace's security is revealed as inadequate. Investigations begin. Guards are dismissed. Policies changed. Your heist has consequences extending beyond the immediate theft. The Empire must acknowledge vulnerability, addressing security flaws you exposed. While this isn't shown directly, the implications are clear. You've humiliated the most powerful institution in Tamriel, forcing them to respond. The political earthquake from your actions will reshape Imperial security permanently. Hieronymus Lex's exile. When Lex is reassigned to Anvil, it's exile disguised as promotion. He's removed from Imperial City for being too zealous, too uncontrollable. His obsession with the Thieves Guild made him liability. In Anvil, he's isolated, unable to pursue his crusade. This exile is tragedy for Lex. He was right, that the guild is criminal, but his methods were wrong. He became what he fought, someone willing to break rules for personal goals. His exile is deserved, but also sad. He's competent guard whose obsession destroyed his career. In Anvil, he's forgotten. A cautionary tale about letting justice become obsession. The two kingdoms of Hackdirt. Hackdirt seems like simple rural village, but investigation reveals disturbing truth. The villagers worship something in the caverns beneath, something ancient and hungry. They lure outsiders to their doom, feeding victims to their god. When you rescue Dharma, you're interrupting ritual sacrifice. The village is cult disguised as community, maintaining normal appearance while conducting dark worship. Hackdirt represents horror, hiding behind mundane facade. The people seem friendly until you discover their basement contains sacrifice chambers. The village is irredeemable, its entire population complicit in ongoing atrocities. The Deep Ones, connection. Hackdirt's villagers and their worship of something beneath the earth deliberately references Lovecraft's The Shadow over Innsmouth. The villagers are transforming, becoming something inhuman. Their god in the caverns is probably not Daedric, but something older, something that predates current divine structure. This entity corrupts slowly, changing its worshippers generation by generation. By the time you arrive, Hackdirt's residents are barely human. They look normal, but think and believe in ways fundamentally alien. The quest is cosmic horror in fantasy setting, showing some evils are older and stranger than Daedra. The Painted World's implications. During a brush with death, you enter a painting to rescue an artist trapped inside. This reveals that Tamriel's art can become real, that sufficient skill creates pocket dimensions. The painting world follows different rules, populated by painted creatures with uncertain ontological status. Are they alive? Do they suffer when you kill them? The quest doesn't address this, treating them as obstacles, but implications are disturbing. If paintings can become real, what about other art? Are there musicians whose songs create dimensions? Sculptors whose works house trapped spirits? The quest opens questions about reality's nature it doesn't answer. Rythe Lithandas's artistic obsession. Rythe Lithandas, the artist, is so obsessed with his painting that he neglects his wife and safety. His obsession led him to create doorway into alternate dimension, crossing boundaries that should remain uncrossed. When thieves steal his brush and strand him in the painting, it's consequence of his recklessness. His wife Tivella suffers, waiting while he's trapped in his own creation. The quest is about obsession's cost. Rythe's artistic brilliance created miracle and catastrophe simultaneously. His rescue doesn't guarantee he's learned anything. He'll probably return to dangerous experimentation, risking himself and his wife again. The troll's brush is power. The brush of true paint can create reality from artistic vision. Whoever holds it can paint objects into existence. This is creative power on godlike scale, limited only by artistic skill. The brush's theft shows it's desirable enough that thieves risk Oblivion Realm to acquire it. The brush represents the dangerous power of creation. In wrong hands, it could reshape reality according to twisted visions. The trolls in the painting are likely creations of a disturbed mind, showing how creative power can produce nightmares as easily as beauty. The brush needs to be controlled, kept from those who'd misuse its reality warping capabilities. The paranoid Daedric cultist. Scattered throughout Cyrodiil are lone cultists worshipping obscure Daedric princes in hidden shrines. These aren't major shrine locations, but personal altars in caves or ruins. The cultists are paranoid, attacking anyone who discovers their worship sites. Their isolation suggests they're practicing forbidden rituals, magic too dark even for acknowledged Daedric worship. When you kill these cultists, you're eliminating people whose faith drove them into isolation. They chose solitude and madness over society. Their altars contain disturbing evidence, ritual materials, sacrificial remains. These cultists represent religion's dark extreme. Faith become fanaticism that destroys the faithful. The Ayleid Wells' lingering power. Ayleid Wells dot Cyrodiil's landscape. Ancient structures that restore magic to those who activate them. These wells have functioned for thousands of years without maintenance, powered by Ayleid magic that refuses to fade. The wells prove Ayleid civilization's magical sophistication exceeded anything modern Tamriel can produce. Current mages can't create permanent enchantments lasting millennia. The wells are archaeological mysteries, technology understood functionally but not theoretically. Scholars know they work but don't understand how. This knowledge gap shows how much magical theory was lost when Ayleid civilization collapsed. The wells are practical benefit, but also humbling reminder of ancient superiority. The Rayman Empire's buried secrets. Fort ruins throughout Cyrodiil date from the Rayman Empire, a previous dynasty that collapsed centuries ago. These forts are now abandoned or occupied by bandits, their original purpose forgotten. The Rayman Empire's history is poorly preserved in the Third Era, reduced to ruins and vague legends. This historical amnesia could suggest deliberate suppression by later dynasties. The Septim Empire may have had reason to downplay or erase Rayman history to legitimate their own rule. If citizens remembered the glory and accomplishments of the previous empire, they might question the current dynasty's claims to greatness. The ruins represent what might be censored history, chapters potentially removed from official records. Exploring them reveals fragments of a past that few scholars seem interested in preserving or studying. Varanus Donton's suspicious death. The Guildmaster's son. Varanus died during what appeared to be a routine troll-clearing contract at Forsaken Mine, but the circumstances raise troubling questions. When you discover his body alongside dead Fighters Guild members, you also find a Blackwood Company corpse and Varanus's journal. The journal reveals his frustration with his overprotective mother and hints at deeper motivations for accepting dangerous contracts. What's suspicious is the pattern. First, Velena's eldest son Vitellus died during the Azani Blackheart mission, where Blackwood Company claimed victory. Now Varanus is dead, with Blackwood involvement again. This could suggest the Blackwood Company systematically targeted Velena's family to destabilize the Fighters Guild leadership. Or perhaps the deaths were simply tragic coincidences exploited for their rivalry. Either way, Modrin Orin takes responsibility for Varanus' death and is expelled, weakening the guild further. The timing benefits Blackwood perfectly. raising the question of whether malice or mere opportunism drove these events. The way shrine's divine presence. Way shrines scattered throughout Cyrodiil's wilderness offer blessings from the 9 divines, each dedicated to a specific deity. What's remarkable is their permanence. These ancient structures remain intact and functional despite lacking any visible maintenance or caretakers. No priests tend them, no pilgrims clean them, yet they continue providing divine blessings to worthy travelers. This suggests the divines themselves sustain these sites, a subtle but tangible form of intervention in mortal affairs. The blessings aren't merely symbolic. They cure diseases, restore health, and temporarily fortify attributes, providing real, measurable benefits. The fact that these effects only work for those with low infamy could imply the divines are actively judging worthiness at each shrine. 2 way shrines are even destroyed or buried by Oblivion gates during the crisis, yet the others endure, standing as quiet testimony to divine power persisting even when Mehrunes Dagon's forces assault Cyrodiil. The Mythic Dawn sleeper agents. Mythic Dawn infiltrated Cyrodiil systematically before the assassination, placing agents throughout society. Some operated openly at their shrine. Others maintained secret identities, living as normal citizens while awaiting activation. When the crisis begins, these agents emerge, revealing neighbors as enemies. The paranoia this creates appears strategic. If anyone might be Mythic Dawn, trust becomes impossible. Society fragments, unable to distinguish friend from infiltrator. When you hunt cult members during the quest line, you're addressing the visible problem, but based on the cult's sophisticated organization, it's reasonable to assume sleeper agents remained hidden throughout Cyrodiil, even after Mankar Cameron's defeat. Titati, cult's legacy would be lasting suspicion, damage that could outlast the crisis itself. The sunken city near Bravil. Beneath the waters near Bravil lie ruins of a submerged city, buildings visible to divers. This settlement sank centuries ago, its history lost. Was it natural disaster, magical catastrophe, or divine punishment? The ruins contain no obvious answers. Skeletons suggest rapid submersion, people drowning before they could escape. But why couldn't they flee? Was the sinking sudden, or were they trapped somehow? The submerged city is mystery without solution. Environmental storytelling provides evidence but not explanation. The dead can't tell their story, and the living have forgotten. The ruins are grave marker for tragedy nobody remembers. The were-creature transformation rules. Contracting lycanthropy in Oblivion requires intentional infection or curse through specific Daedric quests. Simply being attacked by a werewolf doesn't automatically transform you, unlike common diseases. This mechanical distinction could imply that were-creature curses have consciousness or rules beyond simple biological contagion. Since Hircine is the Daedric prince associated with lycanthropy and the hunt, it's reasonable to interpret transformation as his gift rather than random accident. This theological framework makes lycanthropy more complex than a mere biological condition. It appears to be a divine curse requiring specific circumstances. From this perspective, when you become a werewolf, Hircine has chosen you for reasons aligned with his sphere of influence. The transformation would serve his purposes, making you part of his hunt across eternity. The selectivity suggests the curse isn't random but targeted, with Hircine selecting those who fit his vision of what a hunter should be. The Necromancer's Amulet's origin. The Necromancer's Amulet is a powerful artifact that enhances necromantic magic while draining the wearer's health. This dual nature suggests its creation likely required sacrificial magic with life energy bound directly into the enchantment. The game doesn't reveal who created it or how many died in its making, but the mechanics themselves tell a story. The amulet's power appears to come from suffering, crystallized death magic worn as jewelry. When you use it, you're benefiting from what was probably an atrocity. The enchantment could be fueled by souls trapped in perpetual death, powering your magic through their eternal suffering. The amulet represents forbidden magic at its darkest, power that seems to have been purchased with lives, its effectiveness measured in deaths. Using it means accepting potential complicity in whatever dark ritual brought it into existence. The Staff of Worms' cursed legacy. The Staff of Worms creates permanent undead minions, but each use deepens curse on the wielder. The staff was Manamako's personal weapon, and using it connects you to his dark legacy. Each reanimation pulls you closer to necromantic philosophy, normalizing violation of death's sanctity. The staff corrupts slowly, making death seem like tool rather than tragedy. When you raise corpses repeatedly, you stop seeing them as people, viewing them as resources. This dehumanization is the staff's true curse, not magical but psychological. It changes how you think about death, reducing sacred boundary to mere inconvenience. The more you use the staff, the more comfortable you become with desecrating the dead. This comfort is corruption's first stage. Eventually, the line between ethical and unethical magic blurs completely. You become what you would have condemned before holding the staff. The weapon transforms not just corpses, but the wielder's morality, slowly eroding ethical boundaries until nothing seems forbidden anymore.